Good morning, church. Good to see you. Welcome again this morning to another study in the Word of God. And we are back to the book of the Song of Solomon. So if you want to turn there, and we will see if we finish the book today. As we saw in our previous study, this book is written by Solomon, probably before he had all these wives that he took for himself, probably when he was still very young. And he fell in love with this one young lady, and he writes the Song of Solomon, which, with so many proverbs and songs that he wrote, this is the song. It's called the Song of Solomon. This is we could say, the best of his poems and his writings that he has written. And so it's a love story, really, of a man and a woman. And we see their journey from their courtship up to marriage, some issues after marriage, and so on. Or this could also have been written by him really just because of his wisdom. He describes the journey between the husband and wife just in his great wisdom that God gave him. It's not really his personal life. It could have been that as well. Now, when it comes to a couple dating, it's an exciting time, but it's also a serious time. It is a time when the decision is made between two people if they will spend their life together. And it's something that shouldn't be done carelessly. And the question might be, what is the purpose of dating? Well, if we look at the book of Song of Solomon, we see that Solomon has feelings for this maiden, and she has feelings for him. And early on, so it starts with feelings. It starts with, we could say the word, we use it, chemistry. There's chemistry between them. There's feelings between them. And it starts that way. But very quickly, early on, it turns to character. And she looks at his character in chapter 1, verse 3, his name, and that his name is recognized. People around and his family, and he has a good name. He has a good character. She looks at that first. And we see that she's a little self-conscious of her looks, how she looks in chapter 1, verse 6. She battles with that a little bit, and then she yearns to see him, and she goes to see him at his job site where he's working. And she's concerned how she goes. It says that she goes well-dressed, and that she doesn't want to come across as a loose woman or anything like that. She's conscious about how she's dressed, and she goes at noon. During the day, middle of the day, is when she goes to see him. And we see that they talk about their future. It says there, I believe, the last verse of either chapter 1 or 2 here, that they talk about their house and their rafters, and it really it represents their future, the possibility of them building a future together. But what we see throughout the book is that she's guarded in her approach. Several times she says, do not awaken love until it pleases. She's aware of temptation and intentionally keeps her distance in such a way as not to compromise. Now, dating. So what is the purpose of dating? Well, dating is the purpose of getting to know the other person. That's really the purpose why people spend time together before they get married. They want to get to know each other to some degree so that they know if that person is indeed the right person and if they are the right person for the other person. And that means that you ask questions. You ask questions. Questions like, well, what do you do? What are you involved in? What are you good at? What don't you enjoy doing? Or what are your dreams for your future? What are strong points in that person's life or his character? What are weak points? Look at their family. Because if you marry, you become part of that family. Or how do they handle finances? That is the number one reason for divorce, by the way, is lack of understanding finances. How is their spiritual life? Do they read the Bible? Are they serious about God? Do they have a personal relationship with God? Is God a big part of their life? How were they raised? Who are their parents? You can learn a lot from your partner by studying their parents. What do they like personally? What type of food? The clothing style. After you get married, who will take out the trash? Who will mow the lawn? Who will do the accounting? And so on. So there's a lot of things that you can talk about and learn from the other person while you are in a dating relationship. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to know all the answers before, but at least talk about them so you have an understanding of who that person is and where they're coming from. And this is my advice, and this is, I think we see this a little bit in this book as well, that start the relationship slow. Start the relationship slow. Guard yourself at first. Give it some time, and then increase your time spending together as you develop trust for the other person. See, if you start and you spend a lot of time together right away, and you are, you give yourself away, we could say, you share your heart and everything with that person. But then as you into that relationship for a couple months, you're going to realize, you know what, that person has a real character issue. And you're not sure if you can live with that. But now you have so much invested in that relationship that to break that relationship is really costly, because you've given yourself away to a large degree. And that is why it's important, I think, this is my interpretation. And again, you may disagree with me. You say, Rudy, you're old-fashioned and you don't know. That's fine. My wife and I have been counseling couples for about 20 years in marrying. So we have a little bit of experience, not a whole lot, but we can talk a little bit from experience. And, you know, and I think for most part, it's been great. You know, it's wonderful. But things that we have learned over time is, I think, the way it would work is, I think it would be great if a couple, before they start dating, that they have pre-dating counseling. Pre-dating counseling, so that they gain an understanding what will be the purpose of them meeting together. And then you start meeting together, and then after you're ready to get married, then you have premarital counseling. So I think that would be a great way to do it, because sometimes people just get involved and they just kind of start spending time with each other and they don't really understand what is the purpose of them coming together. So that can happen. I'm not saying that it's, you know, the norm, but it can happen. But having said all that, don't expect the other person to be perfect, because no one is. And sometimes it's not so much seeing if that person is the right person, but seeing, are you the right person? Are you going to be a blessing in that person's life? And we need to check and look at that as well. So the dating relationship, starting slow, looking at character at first. The first thing you want to look at, really with big eyes, is look at the person's character. Who is that person? And talk with people around that person. See, sometimes you can spend time with a person, you don't really know that person that much. But people who've spent with that person for 5, 10 years, they know that person. So it's wise to talk at first. Before you get too involved, talk to their friends, talk to family members, talk to someone who that person is. So you can see what are they saying, and they'll give you the truth. And that helps you to see if this is a person that, yeah, there's nothing big, there's nothing, that would sever this relationship. I think we can go forward. And then you start really getting more invested in sharing more of your life with that person. Because if you do too much too soon and you break that relationship, you've given something away that you can never get back. You've given up some private things about your life, some personal things about your life that you wish you hadn't given away. So at first, start slow. Look at the big things, and when that seems it's all open and clear, then you move and you spend more time together, and you look at the finer details as you move along. Just my 5 cents in my personal words to you this morning. Again, you might disagree, and that's fine. The other thing that I would say when it comes to dating is the timing. Very important is the timing of dating. As James Dobson would have said, there's a certain amount of hours, let's say 2,000 hours that you spend time together and you're in bed together. That's the way it works. It's basically you spend a certain amount of time and you're in bed. So what's important is that you phase it out. If you know that you'll be spending 2 years together before you get married, you kind of, the way life works for you, the way you are and your age, then limit your time together. Limit it. Don't spend too much time together. If you know that you're going to be dating for 6 months or 8 months, I don't recommend anything shorter than 6 months, then you can spend a lot more time together because your relationship is going to be really short. So you need to be wise and you need to phase it out so you don't get to know each other too fast, too quickly. And then the timing. And this is, I think, which is really key. When a flower grows and it opens, it has timing. There's timing to it. And sometimes couples might plan their marriage around certain events or certain family members aren't around and so on and so forth, so they either postpone it or they marry sooner. And that can be fine, but there is something what you need to be careful about, and that is that there is such a thing as timing. And there is a time when that marriage is ready and it needs to get consummated and to get married. If you go too long, then it's not healthy for the relationship. And if you do it too soon, it's not healthy for the relationship. There is such a thing as timing, and you need to be aware of that also. And I think that is actually something that is sometimes not focused on enough, that there is such a thing as the relationship is ready, and you need to get married. If you don't, then couples go too far. They awaken love to a degree that they wish they hadn't later on. They've made their way a little way down that road, and they came, and so it's unhealthy. And so there is such a thing as timing. All right, so chapter 5 and verse 1. This is kind of where we start off today. The first verse really belongs to the previous chapter. We didn't read it last time, so I'll read it. It says, I have come to my garden, my sister, my spouse. I have gathered my myrrh with my spice. I have eaten my honeycomb from my honey, and I have drunk my wine with my milk. So the last chapter 4, they get married. They go to their honeymoon suite, and they consummate their marriage. And after consummation, this is what he says, verse 1. And then in verse 2, he says, I sleep, but my heart is awake. It is the voice of my beloved. He knocks, saying, open for me, my sister, my love, my dove, my perfect one, for my head is covered with dew, my locks with the drops of the night. The maiden describes her dream, and it speaks of really growth in their marriage. And there's now some conflict in how they're dealing with it. Maybe they've been married for a while, and he's away for work, and now he's coming home late. And he probably comes in later than what he said he would be home. She was waiting for him, and he didn't come at the arranged time, and she feels offended. And maybe she's become a little bit indifferent, a little bit cold. Her relationship to him is cool a little bit. And he's coming home now. He knocks on the door, and he says, open for me, my sister, my love, my dove, my perfect one. For my head is covered with dew, and my locks with the drops of the night. So he's come home late. She's already in bed. She's undressed. And she can hear the mechanism of the lock. He's trying to open the door. He's letting her know, I'm here. I'm wet. There's fog outside. Please let me in. And she's a little bit offended. And verse 3, it says, I have taken off my robe. How can I put it on again? I have washed my feet. How can I defile them? My beloved put his hand by the latch of the door, and my heart yearned for him. I arose to open for my beloved, and my hands dripped with myrrh, my fingers with liquid myrrh on the handles of the lock. So she's already in bed, and she takes her time. She procrastinates a little bit. She's a little bit cold towards him. She's a little bit offended. Maybe she had her best lunch ready, or supper. He said he's going to be home at 8, and she had it candlelight. She had it all ready, waiting for him, and then he doesn't come up till 11. And now she's hurt and she's offended, and she's in bed, and he's now wanting to come in, and she's delaying. And after marriage, there are adjustments to be made. There can be disagreements about who carries out the trash, or I thought you would mow the lawn, or the other person just simply didn't fulfill the other person's expectation. And there's a little bit of tension in marriage. It's part of adjusting after marriage, and it's very normal. But that is what this couple is experiencing here in chapter 5. And finally, her desire for him overcomes her negative feelings, and she gets up to open the door, and she finds that the doorknob has been perfumed, that there's perfume, there's myrrh on the doorknob. And in ancient times, it was customary to perfume doors used by the bride with fragrant oils. And he shows his affection and love for her by putting perfume on the doorknob. And but what we see here is that he does not force himself in. He wanted her to respond to his love. So he doesn't force himself in. He just stands at the door, and she procrastinates. She doesn't open. There's a little bit of tension back and forth. She's wooing her by telling her that she's great and she's good and all that, and she's holding back. But finally she gets up. She goes to the door. She opens the door only to find that he has left already. If you look in verse 6, I opened my beloved, but my beloved had turned away and was gone. My heart leaped up when he spoke. I sought him, but I could not find him. I called him, but he gave me no answer. The watchmen who went about the city found me, and they struck me. They wounded me. The keepers of the walls, they took my veil away from me. I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, if you find my beloved, that you tell him how I am lovesick. So she is now longing to make up and to restore that relationship. She waited a little long, and now he's gone, and now she's trying to find him. And she's mistreated by the watchmen, who may think that she's a loose woman to be out in the street so late, but she is desperate to find him. And she now charges the daughters of Jerusalem to get involved in searching for him. And they wonder why they should get involved. Why should we get involved in your love relationship? In verse 9 it says, what is your beloved more than any other beloved, O fairest among women? What is your beloved more than another beloved, that you so charge us? So they're wondering, why should we become involved in your relationship? Verse 10, and she now begins to talk publicly about her husband. My beloved is white and ruddy, chief among 10,000. His head is like the finest gold. His locks are wavy and black as a raven. His eyes are like doves by the rivers of waters, washed with milk and fitly set. His cheeks are like a bed of spices, banks of scented herbs. His lips are lilies dripping liquid myrrh. His hands are rods of gold set with beryl. Obviously, all this doesn't make any sense to us, but it did back in those days. His body is carved ivory inlaid with sapphires. His legs are pillars of marble set on the bases of fine gold. His countenance is like Lebanon, excellent as the cedars. His mouth is most sweet. Yes, he is altogether lovely. This is my beloved, and this is my friend, O daughters of Jerusalem. Now she is publicly talking about her husband. She was indifferent to him. She was a bit cold to him. And now she is telling the daughters of Jerusalem how great her husband is, how great he looks, how much she loves him. And it's probably more for her than it is for them. There's tension in the relationship. She feels indifferent towards him, but now she praises her husband in public. And it seems that helps her to restore the relationship. And I think sometimes that is important, is that you talk about positive things about your partner in public. Praise them. And it's more for you even than it is for the person who's listening. And we see that that is what she does, and it helps her to restore and rekindle that relationship. If you look in verse 2, let me see here. We're in chapter 6. Says, "What has your beloved gone, O fairest among women? Where has your beloved turned aside that we may seek him with you? My beloved has gone to his garden, to his beds of spices, to his flock in the gardens, and to gather lilies." So she really kind of knows where he is. He's gone to his favorite garden. Now we know that in chapter 4, this is really a picture of her in her honeymoon, speaking of her garden. But here I think it should be seen as a literal garden. And he's gone there to feed his flock. So he went back to work, and she's now coming after him to find her. And verse 3, "I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. He feeds his flock among the lilies." So she finds him. She comes to him, showing that she is no longer indifferent towards him, and he responds now back to her. So she's found him. She's basically come and told him that, I'm sorry, I want to restore this relationship. And then he responds to her in verse 4. It says, "Oh, my love, you are beautiful as Tirzah, lovely as Jerusalem, awesome as an army with banners. Turn your eyes away from me, for they have overcome me. Your hair is like a flock of goats going down from Gilead. Your teeth are like a flock of sheep which have come up from the washing. Everyone bears twins, none is barren among them." So basically speaking, that she has all her teeth. Like a piece of pomegranate are your temples behind your veil. There are 60 queens and 80 concubines and virgins without number. My dove, my perfect one, is the only one of her mother, the favorite of the one who bore her. The daughters saw her and called her blessed, the queens and the concubines, and they praised her. So they are now together. The warmth of their relationship is restored, and he praises her. He praises her beauty. What we see here is that there's not a hint of him getting back to her for not opening the door and responding to his love. There's no like, okay, so you hurt me a little bit, I turn away, so now I'm going to just give you a little jab and make you feel a little bit of the pain. We don't see that. He just completely receives her 100%, and without any feelings of ill, and the relationship is restored again with open arms, and they're now back in love again. The tension is gone. In verse 8, and again he reassures her. Okay, I already read that. So going to verse 10, now she responds, "Who is she who looks forth as the morning, fair as the moon, clear as the sun, awesome as army with banners?" Or actually in verse 11 is where she responds, "I went down to the garden of nuts to see the verdure of the valley, to see whether the vine had budded and the pomegranates had bloomed. Before I was even aware, my soul had made me as the chariots of my noble people." There's a commentator, Glickman, of these verses. This is what he says. He says, "Guilt had turned her eyes inward, but he brought them outward. She went down to the garden in self-conscious guilt, in hope of renewal, and she was met with praise which turned her eyes from herself to him, and once to him, back to herself through eyes of forgiveness." So the relationship is restored. The way he handled it, the way he took her in again without any resentment, he received her fully, forgave her completely, and now we see her response, and she's appreciative of the restoration of the relationship. And chapter 7, he responds again, he talks again, he talks back to her. It says, "How beautiful are your feet in sandals, O Prince of Daughter. The curves of your thighs are like jewel, the work of the hands of a skillful workman. Your navel is a rounded goblet. It snow-blended beverage. Your waist is a heap of wheat set about with lilies. Your two breasts are like two fawns, two twins of gazelle. Your neck is like an ivory tower. Your eyes like the pools in Heshbon by the gate of Beth Rabim. Your nose is like the tower of Lebanon. I don't know about that one, which looks toward Damascus. Your head crowns you like the Mount of Carmel, and the hair of your head is like purple. A king is held captive by your tresses. How fair and how pleasant you are, O love, with your delights. This stature of yours is like a palm tree, and your breasts like a clusters. I said, I will go up to the palm tree. I will take hold of its branches. Let now your breasts be like clusters of the vine, the fragrance of your breath like apples, and the roof of your mouth like the best wine. So it's interesting that 3 times he describes her beauty, and she reciprocates only once. So maybe we can learn from that it's more important for men to compliment their wives again and again, more so than the woman complimenting her husband. But the context of his praise is that of intimacy, that it is enjoyable to him. That's basically what he's telling her. The intimacy, I find it enjoyable. I love it, and he describes it to her. And then in verse, she responds, now the Shulamite in verse 9, the latter part, the wine goes down smoothly for my beloved, moving gently the lips of my sleepers. I am my beloved's, and his desire is toward me. Come, my beloved, let us go forth to the field. Let us lodge in the villages. Let us get up early to the vineyards, and let us see if the vine has budded, whether the grape blossoms are open and the pomegranates are in bloom. There I will give you my love. The mandrakes give off a fragrance, and at our gates are pleasant fruits. All manner new and old, which I have laid up for you, my beloved. So this is, again, her invitation for intimacy. So we kind of saw that also at their wedding night. He praised her. He invited her in. And now we see again after the restoration, he tells her how wonderful she is, and she invites him in again for intimacy. So that's basically what this chapter 7 is about. At their wedding, intimacy was for the purpose of consummating their marriage, and now we see it is for the purpose of nourishing the marriage. And then chapter 8, verse 1, it says, "Oh, that you were like my brother, who nursed at my mother's breasts. If I should find you outside, I would kiss you. I would not be despised. I would lead you and bring you into the house of my mother, she who used to instruct me. I would cause you to drink of my spiced wine, of the juice of my pomegranates." So in ancient times, you could not show affection in public, except if it was a family member. It's still in some cultures that way. You pretty much, if it's a brother or a sister, a mom or a dad, you can show affection to them, but you cannot show affection in any other way in terms of a relationship. She's saying, man, I wish that you were a brother. If that, then I could show affection in public. So she's kind of like wishing to show more public affection to him, but it's not acceptable in their culture, so she's expressing that. If you look in verse 2, it says, you see the word lead. I would lead you. And it's interesting that word is used almost 90 times in these 8 chapters. And the word lead, it means, in Hebrew, it means to learn. She wants to see how well she has learned the lessons that she has been taught. And that's true. Marriage is a learning process. It's a leading process, a learning process. And it goes on a lifetime. 2 people married together, they don't know each other after a year of marriage. It takes a lifetime to really figure the other person out. And so it's a lot of leading. We see that. A lot of learning. We see this word 90 times in this book. In verse 3, now it's to the daughters of Jerusalem. It says, his left hand is under my head, and his right hand embraces me. I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, do not stir up nor awaken love until it pleases. So this is a picture of lovemaking, and she is advising the daughters of Jerusalem not to awaken love until it pleases. Now, love is so sacred that it is not to be trifled with. You don't play with it. Love really does not have to be awakened. It awakens itself when the time is ready. And so their love has been renewed, their relationship has been restored. And verse 5, who is coming up from the wilderness, leaning upon her beloved? I awakened you under the apple tree. There your mother brought you forth. There she who bore you brought you forth. Set me as a seal upon your heart, as a seal upon your arm. For love is as strong as death, jealousy as cruel as the grave. Its flames are flames of fire, a most vehement flame. Many waters cannot quench love, nor can the floods drown it. If a man would give for love all the wealth of his house, it would be utterly despised. So just a continuation. Their spat is over. They're happily married. She longs to be with him and to be set as a seal upon his heart. Verse 8, we have a little sister, and she has no breasts. What shall we do for our sister and the day when she is spoken for? If she is a wall, we will build upon her a battlement of silver. And if she is a door, we will enclose her with boards of cedar. Now this is a picture, it's really in review. This is the Shulamite woman, the maiden, when she was still young and she was growing up and just probably going into her teenage years, and she didn't have a boyfriend. She wasn't spoken for, and her brothers felt a responsibility for her. They felt responsible to protect her purity. And the brothers decide to guide her, but at the same time allow her to make her own choices. If she was a wall, if she made good decisions and stood against those that might want to exploit her, then they would reward her and build upon that decision. But if she were more like a door, allowing unwise access to her, then they would restrict her freedoms for her own self-interest. They would then enclose her. Now, I find it interesting that the brothers take it upon themselves to protect and to guide their sister in their purity, that it doesn't talk about the father. And maybe the father wasn't there. Maybe he was absent, or maybe he had died, or we don't know. It would just seem that the brothers were closer to her or closest to him, and the brothers felt responsible to guide her in that way. And so now she goes back and she thinks about that. She thinks and she appreciates that she has been guided in her dating relationship from her brothers. Verse 12, she actually responds in verse 10. She says, I am a wall, and my breasts like towers. Then I became in his eyes as one who found peace. Solomon had a vineyard at Baal Hamon. He leased the vineyard to the keepers. Everyone was to bring for its fruit 1,000 silver coins. So she responds to her brothers and says, she made good choices. She was a wall. She protected her honor, and she kept it for her husband. And she sees genuine value, both in her virginity and, more importantly, in herself. A commentator asked this, but it's this way. He says, the Shulamite's life was her vineyard. Because she was pure, she could give herself entirely to her husband. Her heart was undivided, and her body was not tainted by premarital sex. So she had kept herself. She had kept her honor for her husband. And I think that is the greatest gift that a man can give a woman, or a woman can give to her man, is their innocence, their honor, and not give it to someone else. In verse 12, it says, my own vineyard is before me. You, O Solomon, may have 1,000, and those who tend it, its fruit, 200. Again, let me just read a commentary on this verse. Spurgeon, he wrote this: there are a great many people who seem to forget that they have a vineyard of their own to keep. Or else, if they remember it, they cannot say, my vineyard, which is mine, is before me. For they go about gazing on other people's vineyards instead of keeping their eyes fixed upon their own. They say, look at so-and-so's vineyard. I don't think he trims his vines in the new style. And so it goes. So that's Spurgeon's point of view. And I think that is true. Each one of us has a vineyard to keep. And be concerned about your vineyard, about your honor, about your purity, and don't be so concerned about other people's. Take care of your own. Verse 13, you who dwell in the gardens, the companions listen for your voice. Let me hear it. Make haste, my beloved, and be like a gazelle or a young stag on the mountains of spices. So this book is a picture of a courting phase, the wedding and then the marriage. And then we see the courtship began with a look, with feelings, but quickly turned to character. They guarded themselves wisely, opened up as the relationship developed. Their dating behavior was in the open and transparent, minimizing temptation. They had a great wedding. They gave their honor to each other because they had kept themselves pure. And then after marriage, there are some adjustments to be made. And we kind of feel and we see the tension in the story, but they're both willing to forgive and invest in their marriage, and the story ends with both in love and both enjoying their time with each other. So it's almost like a fairy tale. They saw each other, they started the dating process, they were wise, they went through it, they got married, and they live happily ever after. So that's kind of how this book ends. So I think it's a book that I don't know how much you read it, but I think we can learn from it. It's in the Bible. It's inspired. It's one of the books, one of the 66 books in the Bible that God, for a reason, allowed to be put into the book, and I think we should look at it. And marriage is an important part. It's really a pillar on which society stands. The first 11 chapters of the book of Genesis give us the foundation of pretty much everything today that on which Christianity stands. It's given the first 11 chapters in the book of Genesis, and marriage is the principal pillar upon which society stands. You see today that Satan is trying to destroy the sanctity of marriage. People are living together loosely